why on earth Nice?
I suppose there are several possible reasons. First of all, the perpetrator apparently was a resident of Nice, so presumably it's, from a point of view of the organizational logistics, perhaps easiest to organize such an attack in your own town. That's perhaps not the only aspect of the answer. Nice, of course, is a cosmopolitan place. It's on the coast. It's sort of outward looking out towards the Mediterranean, a place where many cultures have mixed. And certainly if you go down the Promenade des Anglais, which I have numerous times, you'll hear a lot of foreign languages there. You know, a lot of Russian tourists, for example, visit and walk down there, as well as native French people. So I don't know whether the kind of cosmopolitan nature of it was something that attracted the attacker, or the fact that it would have also been a very sort of iconic place, this Promenade des Anglais. But I think another aspect we need to bear in mind is that Nice is not Paris, and the two previous attacks, the major terrorist attacks in the last 18 months, have taken place in Paris, in the capital. What this attack is sending as a message is that nowhere is safe. Just because you don't live in Paris doesn't mean that you're going to avoid a terrorist attack or fall victim to a terrorist attack. So I think it really sends that message that there is no safe haven. If you live outside the capital, it can happen anywhere, anytime, any soft target.
Now, the other thing that we've been hearing about over the last hour is that police have been carrying out a raid on the home of the suspected driver of this lorry. We don't at the moment know very much about him, though, do we?
No, we don't know much. We're expecting an announcement from the French prosecutor later in the day, but so far all we know is that he's a 31-year-old Tunisian French man, and that he had a criminal record, but he was not on any list of suspected jihadists. So what that suggests is that there was no reason to hand over his criminal record to authorities dealing with terrorism specifically. And this, of course, sort of fits in with what what intelligence analysts have been warning about for a long time, which is that people with no record of terrorism who are not subject to any dossier of any kind, we're only going to hear from them when they actually carry out their first terrorist attack, by which point it's, of course, too late.
Yeah, it's that lone wolf scenario once again, isn't it?
Well, possibly. We have to be careful with that. It does appear to be an isolated individual. I mean, various French politicians this morning have likened it to the Mohamed Merah phenomenon, that is the Toulouse shooter. But that's pure speculation on their part and our part as well. So we don't know what kind of accomplices this man may have had.
And it's also, just finally, Armin, going to be presumably once again that situation, if the Islamic State group becomes involved in this, potentially even claims responsibility for it, it's going to be very difficult to know whether actually this individual had been in contact with people from the Islamic State group, or whether they're just inspired potentially by the Islamic State group.
Yeah, of course. And whatever the truth of that, we can definitely see that France faces a very rapidly evolving threat, it's changing. We've had three major attacks in the last 18 months, each with a different method of operation. This one, the latest one, does seem to be more of an isolated man taking matters into his own hands, perhaps along the lines of a recent shooting at a French police station in Paris. I don't know if you remember that incident a couple of months ago, but it appears more like somebody who was perhaps inspired by an ideology, because certainly you don't need paramilitary training or to go to Syria to do what this man did in Nice, just take a truck and drive it into people. So we simply don't know at this stage whether he was inspired by an ideology or whether he was part of an actual plot of some kind.
Armin, thanks very much. Armin Georgian from our International Affairs Desk here on France 24. If you just